Mulligan Walker, co-author of Inspiring Global Entrepreneurs, and today I have got the absolute pleasure to interview not only a fellow expat, but someone who has actually become a friend and who is actually also an expat entrepreneur. Shirelle LaTortue, who is the owner and brand manager of Whitewall Branding, Events, and Concierge Specialists. Welcome, Shirelle.
Hi Heidi, how are you?
Fantastic. It's great to be able to connect with you this morning at the end of Global Entrepreneurship Week, when the theme has been all about getting connected. And getting connected with you this year has made a huge difference for me in my business, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of that energy with our viewers today.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great Global Entrepreneurship Week, wouldn't you say?
I totally agree. And I continue to be amazed at this theme of getting connected and just how relevant it is for the entrepreneurship journey. You and I have had a chance to actually get together and share, what the difference has made for both of us. So let's share some of those tips with everyone else. So
absolutely.
One thing that you and I have in common, first of all, we met at an Innovate Raleigh event that was held in September.
Yes.
And that was really part of my getting connected, the start to really a real purposeful get connected journey after the year of the breast cancer and whatnot. And I was like, okay, now's my time. I can do all that connecting that I wasn't able to do last year. So I had the good fortune to meet you at the Innovate Raleigh event, and it turned out that we both were expats who had recently relocated back from our expat assignments back to the U.S. So you and your family spent a number of years in Japan, and yes. I wanted to really just start with sharing, if you could share with us what that journey's been like for you returning to your home country and how it has actually helped you to branch out on your entrepreneurship journey.
I think the return from Japan did a lot of things for me as an entrepreneur. One thing that it really did for me is that it helped me to be a little less fearful of trying something new. Because obviously I am an American and I lived in Japan. However, what I brought back with me was kind of a go-get-it mentality. Because as you know, living abroad, you're always trying to find different ways to fit into your new homeland, so to speak. So coming back to the States, there were some things, and America, we're always making adjustments, changing, innovating, and to be a part of that, I had to kind of find my niche. Initially, I tried to do that through corporate America, and then when I went to do my own business, it was like I had an aha moment, like, let me use all these resources that I pulled from being abroad, right, to be a little less fearless in opening my own business, right? Because I had everything to gain at this point because I was kind of starting, from scratch. I was starting new.
Yeah.
And so that's where, and then their fear is still there. You still have that little, let's be real. When you're starting a business, there is a level of fear that will knock your socks off each and every day. You kind of have to pick up the mantle, right? Yes. And say, I can do this. So that's kind of what I brought back with me from Tokyo, because living abroad, you're learning the culture, right?
Yes.
And you bring some of those aspects back with you, and then you are an American, and we have a lot of great things that we bring with us. So melting those two things together was a great way for me to start my own business. How did you make the transition, or how do you feel about it?
Well, I completely agree, and I think that linking our expat experience to really letting it fuel the journey is something that expat entrepreneurs have that is unique and that they really can use to help them have the confidence and maintain that motivation through those tough times. And like you say, Megan and I, you and I have talked about this, but Megan and I so specifically wanted to cover that fear journey because we know that it really is overcoming that fear, or maybe not even overcoming it, but like you say, making friends with it and using
right.
it as, that, because it is always there. Each thing, there's so many new things, and that when you're an expat, you realize, wow, look, you have an automatic frame of reference for something you've already done and overcome.
Yes.
And especially living in all of these countries, there's always things, new situations you're putting yourself into, and you say, hey, look, I did that. I rode the metro in a city where I don't speak the language for the first time.
Exactly.
I did it. We survived. And it's that type of overcoming fear, or again, making friends with it, that you do all the time as an entrepreneur. So I agree, there is such a correlation between our expat experiences that really help us on that entrepreneurship journey.
And don't you think you do things fearful because you've had to do it over the course of whatever years you've been there? So like even when you go to those conferences, and I don't care how extroverted you are, when you go to things like Innovate Raleigh, there's a level of fear there, right? Because these are people who are really go-getters, entrepreneurs, people who are doing things that are big, huge.
Yes.
So to go out and speak to people and really make it a meaningful conversation, I think I brought that back with me from being abroad. You know what I mean? So when I was like, hey, I'm going to talk to her because she looks interesting and I want to hear what she has to say about her business, I think that that's something that we, should honor, as expats.
I think you're right. And I think that we realize the journey of getting connected as an expat, getting connected into your new adopted country's community in whatever way that might be, how important that is to your success. And then getting connected as an entrepreneur is so important to that success as well. So I completely agree. And actually, I think I probably hadn't even thought as that much about that aspect of it. But what really gave me the momentum to say, yeah, go to that event, get started. It's just been amazing to me, all of the things that have happened as a result of that,
Right. I think that I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say that also I think that as expats, what's been interesting in you and I getting connected was really your willingness to share resources with me that have made a real difference for me. And I really do think that is something that's unique about all of the expat entrepreneurs that Megan and I have talked to through this journey, through the book, through other interviews. Because again, when you're an expat and you're living somewhere and, that's not your home country and you don't have that social structure, that network, you have to create it. And you often have benefited from someone else sharing something with you, and you do the same.
Absolutely. So, you become a connector, so to speak. Like, I think that being a connector to other people is a very wise business choice. It's very great for you as well because you just never know who you can connect with someone else. Now, I might meet someone who's not the ideal client for me, but I'll say, oh, I know who you should speak to. Heidi would be amazing. Or we're having a conversation, making those connections. And you're right, it has a lot to do with living abroad and having to make those, those connections and conversations between people who may not ever get to know each other.
Yeah.
So I think that us as business people, we should really foster that connecting other people because, referrals are the biggest thing that you can do. Yeah. Referrals are huge. And that's why social media works so well, right? Because we're globally connecting people who may not ever connect with each other outside of that. And as expats, we learn how to do that really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it is something that is very unique and that expat entrepreneurs in general should be very, very proud of it and realize that it is something that they bring to the table that really, I think, does explain why, if you look around your local area, when you actually start to dig deeper, you realize, a lot of these successful businesses are expat entrepreneurs.
Yes. Yes, you'd be very surprised how many people have lived abroad and brought those, resources, way of thinking back to the United States, And some people, even though we say small business, I think small business is a misnomer.
Yeah.
I think small business entrepreneurship is really a misnomer at this point because there's so many people who are going abroad, doing things, coming back to the United States and bringing those, ideas, concepts, and resources back to what we already have here in the States. And then it's making those connections. And then we have technology as a component too as expats where we're kind of reaching back and I know this person in Japan or I know this person in Korea or wherever it may be, or for yourself, England, right? And Megan's in England. So we're making these connections. So now I kind of know Megan, even though I never met her. So I think that in of itself is amazing and we need to make sure we're using those resources and not be scared or fearful to make those connections and to use those resources.
Well, and I agree, and it was one of the reasons why we called it Inspiring Global Entrepreneurs, because of the fact that we have more of a global mindset, and we're bringing pieces from all of those different worldly experiences to wherever we happen to be as expats, and in that sense, there's a global reach to anything that we're doing, whether it's been inward or inward or outward, we could keep that global connection. So that was a real specific part of the global piece to our book. So
yeah, and then you and I have talked about the fact that when you become a part of a smaller community and you've lived, somewhere else, those people kind of have their social groups already and their business groups already. So just trying to find your way into that. I think as an expat, coming with that source of, I'll go out and meet whoever, or just knowing how to make those connections, I think is so beneficial, to us as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this really is a great lead in then to, the getting connected as really being part of a successful entrepreneurship strategy. Mm-hmm. And Megan and I talk a lot about that throughout the book, but very specifically in chapter 4, which is all about being social and about really some of the nuances of networking and the reciprocity element of networking, and how you can get connected through whether it's mastermind groups or other, organizations. Mm-hmm. So for you, Shirelle, what have you found to be some of the most successful avenues of getting connected as you settled back to your home country, but mm-hmm. setting up your business? What really made a difference for you?
I think the biggest thing for me has been able to tell my story, being very authentic, because people kind of are attracted to people who are authentic about their story. So I'm not afraid to tell people I'm a small business, as it is. And about even when sharing with other entrepreneurs, just letting them know that, this is new to me as well. But I know that this is my purpose, I know this is my vision, and I know it's going to work. So even when we mix those two things, fear with the willingness to do it, fear, we have to do it fearful.
Yes.
I think that's really helped me, because I've connected with people that otherwise I may never have connected with. So telling our story, I think, is the biggest thing in making those connections. I think, we talk about social media and we talk about all the ways we can market, but I think knowing your brand and really getting it out there is the best way you can connect with anyone and they want to do business with you. Because we connect with people and their stories, what we believe in, as opposed to what you're selling or what your service is. People believe in what you're saying, they're more apt to work with you. It goes back to the old adage of, people on the golf course, right? Use my guy, right? So I think that referrals are, like, to me, still really a huge way of getting people, to understand your business. So we're not a Target or a large company where we're really, out there in mass media. But when you make those connections and you get those referrals, we refer people back and forth to each other, a lot. And I refer you, you've talked about me. I think that's been amazing because, repetition breeds recognition.
Yes, exactly.
So if people start to hear your name a lot, they kind of say, maybe I need to meet this person or work with this company. Exactly. So I don't want people to underestimate, those global entrepreneurs. I don't want us to underestimate the power of the referral, the power of making those connections with people. Strategic partnerships, those are the things that really are the building blocks to what we want. Even through social media, that's essentially what we're doing. It's a referral system. Yeah. I connect with you. I connect with Megan. I connect with someone else who is in your, in your network of people. So I don't think just traditional way of marketing is there anymore. I think there's so many other ways to get your brand identity out there. I think that's the most important thing. How do you feel about it?
I absolutely agree. And what you touched on at the beginning there about sharing your authentic story, that's how you and I actually got to connect, because we were at that same table. You shared your authentic story about just getting started. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm also just kind of restarting a bit and I need some marketing help and let's get together. And it just really started from there. We both shared our very authentic journeys, which were not necessarily mine. I've just come off breast cancer treatment for the past year. This is where I am. Why share anything other than the real story,
Exactly. Like, why do I need to say, like, I'm this, huge company because I know what I do and I think I do it well. Yeah. So I don't need to, sometimes we feel like we need this machine and we need to make it look like something that it's not. And, if you think about all the places that you shop or the things that you really love, it's for a reason, because it's how it makes you feel, not about, it's not solely the aesthetics. Obviously, aesthetics are important. As a marketing person, I would be lying to say that it's not. But when people can relate to your story, that's when it really sounds something in their head and they say, yes, I want to work with that person. So I felt the same way about you. I felt like, okay, here's someone who's saying, hey, I'm just coming off of, a really arduous year that actually was at the end, a blessing for me. But, I'm coming back and I want to do some things. And I'm like, hey, I want to do some things as well. Let's barter. Let's figure out how we can work together. Yeah. And that's where really the entrepreneurship spirit really shows itself, I think.
I think you're right. And also, what now as we're just talking, it's dawning on me, it means you're going to connect with the right people for you.
Yes, for you. Yes.
You know?
Yes, absolutely. You know, sometimes the right person for you, you know, if you're in a lane where you're just like about flashy, then you need to connect with someone who is really into flashy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, if your authentic story is more about helping people, you know, whether you're selling shoes and you want to help people because you want to sell the right type of shoes, or you're in, you know, doing therapy, but it's connecting with the right kind of people. As long as you're doing that, there's no way you can lose, right? Because they're both two authentic people coming together. It's going to be amazing for whatever customer or client or, you know, bottom line there is. Exactly. And people identify with that,
Definitely. Yeah. And Shirelle, the thing that I love as well, because you are all about the brand, you know, and the importance of branding and making that authentic story part of your brand. Have you found that that's really helped you to, you know, again, become friends with that fear place?
Oh, yes, definitely. Because what I do is kind of, as you alluded to earlier, I make fear my friend, you know.
Yes.
So Freya and I, you know, we kind of work together. We have to work together. I feed off of that to propel me to do what I wouldn't do. I do it scared, you know. Everything I do is not because I have everything, you know, in this nice, neat package and it's ready to go. But what I do know is that I know that if I like to say work my brand.
Yes.
If I work my brand the right way, people will get it. And when they get it, they'll want to work with you because they know that, one, you know, you're a hard worker. Anyone who works through fear, trust me, they're hard workers.
Yes.
Entrepreneurs are the people who really are the people who built our country, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They're the people who work through their fears. You know, most were immigrants. We're all immigrants. We work through our fear of the possibility. You know, we work in the possibility. And so when you make that a part of your brand and you add whatever it is you do well to that, you can't lose. I mean, there's no way you're going to lose because we're all purposed to do something. Once you find the purpose, right, and you kind of straddle the fear,
yes,
and you go forward and do what you want to do and you make those connections, which are super important, you know, I think that your brand is solid, you know, and that's why I say even as a small business, we don't want to forget about that. We don't want to just put a status every once a week on our Facebook and think that's enough for people to want to work with us. You know, we have to really present our brand in a way that people can say, okay, I get what you are. I get what you do. I get your service. Because once they get it, you know, then you can win. And then your niche clients, whoever they may be, are going to want to work with you. But when they don't get your brand or you're kind of all over the place or if you don't even think about what your brand is, that's such a mistake. So I always tell people, do what you do well and let me do what I can do for you fabulously.
Yes,
you know?
yes, exactly.
Because I think we've had some great brainstorming sessions, some consulting sessions where you had a kernel of a really great idea. And you know, as small business people, usually we're like a business of one or two, right?
Yes, yeah.
And sometimes you just need to have someone in there with you to kind of, you know, I have this good idea, but I can't, you know, they don't have it in a vacuum is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So then you bring someone else in who can help you with your brand. And you're like, oh, yes, the idea I had, but I just didn't finish the thought. Because we talked about this. Yeah. As a small business person, you're pulled in so many different directions because you're wearing so many hats.
Yes.
So when you have someone there who can kind of, you know, help you bring out what your brand is and kind of talk about your story, you're like, I have those thoughts. I just needed someone else there to kind of help me bring those things out. And that's, I think, we can help each other, right? We can help each other with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the other piece, too, is something that I realized was that, you know, I need the assistance from someone who has that marketing and branding expertise, such as you, as well as event. You know, you said to me, Heidi, what about an event? You know, I'm like, wow, you know what? I hadn't really ever thought about it. Here I was kind of just, you know, blogging and doing my classes. And I was like, oh, yeah, an event. And it's funny because different things are then starting to happen around that we can both be part of. So I totally agree. Megan and I often talk about the importance of, you know, again, working in partnership comes in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
It's formal, it's informal, but getting those ideas out, getting the circular discussion we have with ourselves out to someone else automatically starts some momentum that would not have happened.
It makes it real. It makes it real. Once you have that conversation, then it puts it in the atmosphere and it makes it real. And just going back a little bit to the events, I think the entrepreneur, whether you're global or if you've never been outside the United States, is so important for the event, right? Because people get to see who you are, and they get to have a conversation with you. You get to have partnerships with other people. You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about the event. I think that it's a loss, something that we lose as a small businesses. We lose that. We lose wanting to do the event because we get into the nuts and bolts of things, as you said.
Yeah.
But the event is something that large companies do, and it's important because it brings energy, right?
Yeah.
So when people want energy and they kind of make those connections, that's where you really can grow your business, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. So, Shirelle, tell me then, for you, as you are looking at the end of this initial first journey, we're coming up to the end of 2014 with the beginning of 2015 going forward. As you look back on your journey of setting up Whitewall Branding events and Concierge Specialists this year, what would you say has been the absolutely most important thing that you have done that has brought your brand to life?
I spent a lot of time making connections and networking. I think that was the best thing for my brand, telling my story, letting people know what I do. Even if at that moment it wasn't a time for me to work with them, I just wanted to get my story out there because it made it real. Mm-hmm. It didn't feed the fear. It made the fear kind of push the fear down, because once you start speaking it into the world and people say, oh, that's what you do, you're like, oh yeah, that is what I do.
Yeah.
And honestly, building people, I know sometimes, we get anxious, we get excited as entrepreneurs, we want to do everything immediately. But just building my brand and letting people know I was out there and putting it out there and keep telling my story and networking and meeting people like yourself who are connectors to other people, that was the most important, foundation laying I could have done. And I'm so glad that I did it, even though sometimes I was in environments that could have been very intimidating for me as someone just coming back to the States and that kind of thing. It could have been very intimidating for me. And sometimes, let's be honest, it was. Yeah, but even in that moment, I had to, like I said, I had to make fear my friend and kind of push through it and say, this is what I'm purposed to do. And given the opportunity, I'm going to do it well. And I think that was the first year, the first 6 months actually into the business. And I'm looking forward to 2015, where we're really just going to start getting into the nuts and bolts and doing the work and, partnering with great people like yourself and continuing to build those relationships and making that transition as an expat, who's working now in the United States.
Yeah. Wonderful. Absolutely. I absolutely love it. So many great themes there about really making fear a part of the journey that can energize and motivate you. Absolutely. Really making peace with that fear, telling your story authentically, and sharing it at every opportunity that you get, meeting and connecting with people and connecting others, never knowing where any of that might go.
Right.
And being focused on making that all part of your authentic brand. You start to really, again, that momentum just starts to go, and the next thing you know, you actually are taking in calls to take on the work and do what you set out your business to actually do. But you have to build it. That using that term build, as you've done so beautifully, is just so important. It's that building process that I think takes longer than anyone ever expects it to.
Yeah.
And I think that it's the thing that doesn't get talked about enough. And it's that getting connected can help you build the business, the brand, and the reality that does make you an entrepreneur.
Yes, I always tell people, if you're passionate about something, if you have a service business or if it's something that you make or sell, give it away 10, 20 times. I know that at the end of the day, we're not nonprofit organizations and we have to get a paycheck. Yeah. But we talked about this, let people know what you do well. Yeah. Right? And sometimes it might take you putting yourself out there if it's something that you do that's service related, or putting your product out there and putting it in people's hands so they can enjoy it. And then reaping the benefit on the back end, which obviously is very scary, and also is, it's not cost effective. But I think that you get a lot out of it in the end. So, just do it. Just do it.
Absolutely. Completely agree. There's a more to just do it than the Nike slogan, right?
Yes, absolutely. And do it fearful, Heidi. Let's do it scared.
Exactly. Because we're not getting over that. And it will be with you the whole entire time. And that's okay,
It's okay.
It's absolutely okay. Yeah.
And then once you get up that level, and your business starts to grow, I'm sure it's going to be another level of fear because you're growing, right? And then when you're doing stuff on an even bigger level, I mean, with every level, that fear is gonna be there, but we have to kind of put it in its place.
Yeah, exactly. So Shirelle, for our followers who would love to follow you and get more of those brand tips and whatnot, tell us your website address so that they're hearing it from you. We've got your Facebook page on our site, which we'll forward on as part of this interview, but making sure, because I know that the names of those can't always be the full name. So tell us your website and your Facebook page.
So our website is whitewallbranding.com, and we like to call it a visual meeting space.
I love
so
that.
That's our website. I know, yeah.
That's cool.
Because it's all about the visuals and aesthetics, of course, and telling our story. We also have our Facebook page, Whitewall Branding, Instagram, Whitewall Branding, and please follow us on Twitter, Whitewall Branding. We just kept it very simple so people can, follow us, more efficiently.
Excellent. I don't think you and I are connected on Twitter yet. Is Twitter new?
We need to.
Yeah, we got to. I wasn't sure. Okay, fantastic. So, yeah, great. Wonderful. I love that. Visual meeting space. So instead of website, visual meeting space. That is fantastic.
Because I want people to know that it's more about the visuals than it is about a lot of, just verbiage and content. We share some content there, but we also share on that space some of the clients we work with and some of the graphics we've done. So you can kind of see like kind of a little book about what we've done. So that's kind of what we call the visual meeting space, because we have to rely on aesthetics in our society. So,
yeah, I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. And I think that it also really gives a great focus. I've just finished my website that Megan did for me. And, again, it gives you a different focus for it, because you're like, wait, okay, how can they meet me? And I know I changed quite a lot of my wording. I wanted to be more like, hey, it's Heidi here.
Right.
So again, if you're meeting someone, then you are doing it differently. So I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, take ownership of our businesses. A lot of people are business owners, but they don't take ownership of their business. They have something out there that they never kind of take care of. So as a business owner, make sure that you're taking full ownership of your business. Make sure you know what it looks like, what it feels like, that they know you. It's important.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure and one of the huge highlights of my year to get connected with you this year. And I'm so looking forward to all that you have going on, not only for the rest of 2014, but 2015 and beyond. And I am so glad that we get to partner with each other. We live just down the road, which is another bonus for both of us, because I'm using talking to people from all over the world.
We're actually in the same space right now. You guys don't know that. No, I'm just joking.
Exactly. Almost. Very close. Closer than I've been with anyone else I've interviewed over the last year. So that's wonderful. So Shirelle, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been such a blessing meeting you, and I'm looking forward to all things that we're going to do. You guys keep watching. We're going to do a lot.
Exactly. I love it. On that note, everyone, enjoy the rest of Global Entrepreneurship Week. We look forward to the theme for next year.
Yes.
And continue inspiring others by sharing your story authentically. That really has been a great message from Shirelle. Take care, Shirelle.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.